I think all retailers that sell video games, pre-built gaming PCs, and just consoles in general should all start implementing installment plans. Because when it comes to the pricing of all these fucking video games and consoles lately, it's all shit, man. It's the defense won't switch in attack mode, and even video, like how much more pricey are we gonna get? I think the PS5 Pro is just the beginning. I really do think that this pricing of the PS5 Pro is just the beginning. They tried to do it in the third generation after they came out with their hottest selling console, the PS2. But the Xbox was right there to compete with them. Remember, the first Xbox didn't really do much. It sold just a little bit more than the GameCube did. But they weren't competition. But once Sony fucked up with the PS3 but selling it for $600, people just went to the Xbox 360, and that made Xbox 360 what it was. Until the red ring of death shit started happening and people started migrating back to the PS3 once they fucking priced the shit down and took away the backwards compatibility. But now we're pretty much having deja vu. We're now going back in time, because now what they tried implementing during the 5th generation, an overpriced console, trying to make that the norm, Apple style. But you know, Apple could do whatever the hell they want, and their dumb fan base is gonna buy whatever the hell they put out, regardless of the Android competition. And that's one example of Apple pretty much has no competition, really, because they could just do whatever the hell they want. Their dumbass fan base is gonna buy it no matter what. So the fact that Android's competition, I guess, doesn't really matter that much, because Samsung is like the closest they get. And I guess they're just not competition enough. They can still do whatever dumb shit they want. But so in the gaming, sphere, you can't really get away with that. Sony tried to during their generation, the 5th generation, because they had, big headitis or whatever from pretty much owning the 4th generation. PS2 destroyed everything. And not only is it the best selling console of all time, but GameCube and Xbox didn't even come close. I mean, the first PlayStation sold more than any other console ever did. Even the NES and SNES didn't sell as well as the PlayStation did. So they came into PS2 just gangbusters. Not only that, but Nintendo, every console they come out with sells less than the one before, until the Wii. But like up until that point, the 64, the SNES sold less than the NES. The 64 sold less than the SNES. The GameCube sold less than the 64. And the 64, as much as I love that, a lot of us love that console, it didn't really sell that well, especially compared to PlayStation. So Nintendo was kind of in their little rut. Even though GameCube was technically the most powerful console out there, more powerful than PS2, it didn't really matter, did it? That's what made Nintendo learn their lesson and be like, having the most powerful console don't mean nothing. So pretty much, Nintendo was kind of in the rut during that generation of PS2. And Microsoft just put out the Xbox as a brand new console, so there's no way that shit was going to freaking, outsell anybody. It outsold the GameCube, though, which is hilarious. Nintendo been in the game, the one that started this whole home console thing, and they're in 3rd place. I mean, who told them to make those small little discs? The developers don't want to deal with that shit. It makes it hard to make games for every console when you have the Xbox, and the PS2 is pretty similar. And then the GameCube is just this weird thing where, like Nintendo did it to themselves. They're stupid. Oh, we're afraid of piracy. Like why the hell do you care so much? There's a few $1 million that you might not make because of piracy. Your console's gonna sell anyway, as long as you made the console's good and the games are good. But no, just keep worrying about piracy and freaking wake up a cold sweats at night because of freaking piracy. That's why the 64 stayed a cartridge, which what pissed off all the developers off, and they went to Sony. Nintendo is the reason. Nintendo's incompetence is the reason why Sony was able to freaking do what it did. And then the PS2 was just pure destruction. So they got big headitis from all that, Sony did, and they tried to price the PS3 at $600. We're talking, look, if they just announced $700 console in 2024, and people are bitching about it, including me. Imagine $600 back, like 20 years ago? Almost 20 years ago, like 18 years ago? So imagine that. They're tripping. That's like, what, $800, maybe $1,000 in today's money? They're crazy. But they had big headitis. But luckily, the gaming community isn't as fucking gullible and fucking stupid as the Apple community. The phone people get it because they were actually able to say, like, hell nah. As much as we love Sony and the PlayStation, we're not buying that shit. Everyone bought the Xbox 360, and then when Nintendo Wii came out with their shit, that shit sold like gangbusters too. And Sony had to pretty much bend over backwards and retrace their steps and fucking change the console and drop the price in order for that shit to even, you know, remotely even do well by the end of the generation. The problem is we're now repeating the cycle. It's deja vu. Because now Sony has a big head-itis again. Because Xbox is the 360 is the only good, like, it's like the peak era of Xbox. Everything after that has been trash. Don't even announce how much the consoles they sell anymore. So Xbox is completely out of the race. They're trying to turn into the console version of Steam, or trying to compete with Steam, I guess. Like to have, you know, their version of it. Probably the next console is probably going to be a streaming box. So Xbox is dipping their head out of the race. And Sony's owning again. And Nintendo does their own thing. Nintendo purposefully releases their console in mid-generation when the PS5, when the Sony and Microsoft are releasing their consoles. Because Microsoft and Sony release the console at the same time, Nintendo releases their consoles midway through. So Nintendo's making it a point to be like, hey, we're not competing with you guys, we're doing our own thing. Fuck off. And so Sony now feels like, hey, we own this shit again. Xbox is not doing shit. Nintendo's on the corner doing their own thing. They want to compete. Let's go ahead and put out this console for $700. Let's test the waters out. I think this is a testing of the water situation. Okay, let's put out a real stronger console. And let's not stop worrying about the price. Just make it $700. $100 more than the last time we did this and we got fucking scrutiny. Let's see how they act. We're the only thing in town. No one's gonna. Xbox ain't doing shit. Like they have that big head-itis again. I'm telling you. They're like, Xbox ain't doing shit. Nintendo. People that buy Sony though, Sony's console, man, or buy these AAA experiences with a freaking cinematic thing. They don't, you know, Nintendo is their own audience, and we have our own audience, and we pretty much just own all of Microsoft's audience at this point. So now they're getting a big head because if they're pricing the Pro at this amount, imagine how much the PS6 is going to be in 2028. Just imagine how expensive that console is going to be. It's going to be $700 or so, or I guarantee you it's going to be $800. And the thing is, with all these pre-built like PCs or whatever, I think they're like, look, man, we have this whole strong gaming community that buys these PCs and builds their PCs that have pre-built PCs, and now the Steam Deck's out. Sony's probably thinking like, look, we want to price our consoles the same way the way the PCs are. And shit, the PS6 might be the first console where they have multiple versions of more powerful versions of themselves. Because think about it, if Sony's doing it and PCs are doing it and Xbox is not even in competition no more, you know, like there's gonna be no choice, right? I mean, like, well, if every single console you could get are these super strong, super expensive $1,000-something freaking supercomputers, and like there's multiple versions of each of them, like what the fuck is like? This is what all the phone companies do. Apple kicks it off and does something that everyone is against, and then then once they see the Apple phones are still selling that year, everybody follows along. They did it with the whole charger in a box thing. They did it with the taking away the headphones. They did it with a lot of shit. And then remember when Apple was the only company that didn't come up with multiple versions of their own phone, and then they threw the hat in that race. So it's like they take turns. Hey, like, you do this shit, okay, you're still selling, all right, we're gonna do it next. And if every phone, like, now we're at the point where every phone company does have a charger in a box. So if every single company comes out with their brand new phones and none of them have chargers in the box, what the fuck we're gonna do? Not buy phones? What are we gonna do? Protest and be like, oh, we're not gonna buy phones anymore. We're gonna hold on to our phones from 2, 3, 5 years ago. You know that's not gonna happen. Shit didn't stop me from buying a new phone when I got sick of my older one. And shit, and even if the older phones weren't selling, they'd probably be like, man, just wait them out. Wait another 2 years. The phones are going to die. Or probably be like, hey, let's go ahead and slow down the older phones. Like what Apple got caught doing and got sued for. And like, let's make them forced to get a new phone. Now, we're not going to put a charge in the box. What the fuck they going to do? It's kind of like when all these gas stations raise the price of gas. Like, what the fuck they're going to do? What, not drive? You're going to protest and walk to work? Take the bus? No, you're fucking not. You're gonna go put that gas. So keep bitching. You know, like, look at the price of rent going up. The same thing. What the fuck you guys gonna do? What you gonna do? Be homeless? You all gonna go on the street now because the rent's too high? You're gonna protest about it? No, you're gonna figure out a way to pay the rent, and then we're gonna get our money, and then that's it. So it's like, yo, if everyone does it, you know, like what else can you do about that? If the light bill goes up worldwide, like what you gonna do? Well, start lighting candles in your house now? You're not gonna have electricity? Like what you gonna do about it? What you gonna do? You're gonna do kidnap my kids and fucking don't cut their fingers off and mail it to me? What you gonna do about it? And now Sony, I think, is trying to be in this position, and it's the PC Masturbate race's fault, because they're the ones that always talking about PCs this and PC that, with their stupid ass fucking pre-built PCs, and they build the PCs and they're 1,500 this and 1,000 this and that, and they have no problem doing it. And they're always talking about, oh, how their things are better than ours and all this shit. Well, Sony's like, hey, you know, we don't want you console guys to feel left out. We're gonna do the same thing now. We're gonna have $1,700 freaking PS6, and we'll have it all the way down to the cheapest one, which is $800. And you know, we're gonna start implementing installment plans. And then this is one of my main point that I haven't hit this whole video, which is basically, if every company like Amazon or whatever retail store, Best Buy, all these retail stores that sell consoles, if they start implementing installment plans, whether through a firm or through themselves or whatever the hell, I think this will become the new normal. I think this will really become the new normal. The installment plan is the only way to make this mainstream. If we have no other option, if Xbox is just gonna become a streaming the new Xbox is a streaming box for their console, and if they're going that route, if Sony's gonna just start implementing all of the expensive ass consoles, the more powerful consoles, and use the basic, hey man, PCs do this, now we're doing it. It's like they have a super strong leg to stand on. Because if the PC gamers do it, what can the console gamers do it? And I don't think Sony really cares if they sell half the consoles they usually do, if they sell only 50 million copies instead of 100 million like they usually do. Because if they're selling their things more expensive, they're making just as much profit, are they? Or maybe more profit. And especially they started doing installment plan of games. They started selling the games the way they want to, like $100. Start selling games at 100 this and 100 that, like they want to. And start implementing installment plans for those just like they do the consoles. Shit, this would be the new normal, and freaking Sony will be making just as much profit, if not more than ever. And without competition, they'll own, because Nintendo is you mostly get Nintendo for the first party games and maybe the third party games. And now because of the hybrid thing, but now we have the Steam Deck as competition. So Sony doesn't really have a competition. So what they're gonna do? They're gonna implement this, and we're gonna all just fucking accept it. This attack mode is back to defense mode, and I'm out. Peace.